Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about a major trend in cloud computing, the rise of multi-cloud. It's not a brand new trend. Companies have been using multi-cloud for a few years now, but as we move into 2022, a multi-cloud strategy is more dominant than ever. To discuss that, to explore what that means for companies using the cloud, I'm joined by a very special guest. With me is Hilary Hunter, Chief Technical Officer of IBM Cloud. Hilary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely delighted to be here. Thank you.
You know, I've got a series of big important questions about cloud, but of course, the biggest question of all here on November 24th is, are you ready for Thanksgiving?
I am ready. The menu is planned out. The dessert is ready. We're ready to go.
That sounds really good. And to be sure, we have a lot to be thankful for this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like such an amazing time of reflection and gratitude and family and all those things. So it's a great year to be thinking back on all of that.
So multi-cloud, fascinating topic. Over the last few years, we've definitely seen a major move to a multi-cloud strategy among companies across sectors. I mean, finance, healthcare, it seems like multi-cloud is now the default. What factors created this trend in your view?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things. The advent of multi-cloud in some sense, I think was accidental for many organizations in the sense that the pursuit of use of SaaS, so the conversion of kind of on-premises software to using something as a service in the cloud, drove a lot of cloud adoption, but also adoption of different cloud environments because SaaS providers platformed onto different clouds. I think also there are trends, though, around data sovereignty globally, meaning, data needs to stay in a particular country. There may be different cloud providers there, and many other effects in the market that have meant that multi-cloud truly is the reality now. And I would say further, as we get into this conversation, I would argue as well, hybrid cloud and use of private clouds are absolutely here to stay as well.
It's interesting you make that point about private clouds because I think there was a point. I mean, I've been covering cloud for a while, and I think there was a point, around 2012 or so, where people said, "Oh yeah, private clouds, they're not gonna, they're gonna go away once this whole public cloud thing takes over. We're gonna lose private clouds altogether." But it turns out the private clouds have been remarkably resilient in the face of cloud growth. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, I do, because I think we have to kind of dissect what is a cloud. My team sometimes laughs at me when I say, wait, what did you mean by cloud? Because it's like, Hillary, you work in a cloud organization, you should know what it is, right? But I think, I state this statement kind of provocatively to make us question, what is it that we were talking about? Are we looking to get an efficient operating model? Are we looking to have automation, what we call DevSecOps, for example? Are we looking to provide, catalogs of services, which is now possible through distributed cloud, even if it's a private cloud environment behind a company's firewalls? And so there's a lot of things that cloud brings with it. It's not just, public cloud as a place with a bunch of servers and a warehouse scale data center. Cloud brings with it changes in methodology as to how people work more efficiently, changes in how quickly a company can integrate new technologies into what they're doing, changes in the scale of analytics you can do, right? And many of those technologies now can be delivered in multiple places through private cloud technology, through distributed cloud technology. And so the cloud conversation and the value to an enterprise can be delivered in multiple modalities now. And that's why I, bring in the term, hybrid cloud also.
Interesting. I know you have some data about specific trends in multi-cloud, including in highly regulated industries. Let's take a look. And what do you see as particularly noteworthy?
Yeah, we refreshed a study recently, just in the last month or two, with the IBM Institute for Business Value, the IBV. And it was a refresh of a study that was done in 2019. And in 2019, when we surveyed, 29% of respondents said that they were still only using a sole cloud environment. That might be just one public cloud or just one private cloud. And that number, rather surprisingly, but also not surprisingly, dropped to only 3% in this year's results, meaning that less than 3% actually, and in some countries as small as 1% of enterprises were reporting that they were monocloud. This means multi-cloud, where you started this conversation, is the reality. That is what everyone is dealing with. And I think, even within regulated industries, sectors like the government, in the government, that 2019 number was 40%, just use of one cloud environment. That's now down to 6% in terms of global government and public sector. And so multi-cloud, even in regulated industries, is the reality. But in regulated industries, the study, showed that there's significant concern around lock-in, there's concern around security and compliance, and some concern about visibility across those different environments, because multi-cloud is the reality, but the challenge is then getting observability and control and consistency across different environments. So the survey, was very interesting in describing what the reality is, but then also very consistent in the results on what people are then concerned about as the challenges.
It's interesting you mentioned observability, because obviously that becomes a lot more difficult with a diffuse platform like that. I mean, I guess I'd like to ask you, multi-cloud is certainly very versatile, but it does offer some challenges. I mean, what do you see as a typical challenge, and what advice might you give for handling that challenge?
Yeah, I think this challenge around having visibility to everything that's going on is kind of the universal challenge now. I see that there are much more intentional conversations being had about cloud. That provocative kind of question of really what is cloud, and taking a platform decision so that you can then have consistency across the different physical places that cloud ends up being for your enterprise. And from that perspective, having a platform conversation about consistency across environments, having a conversation around consistent security capabilities, consistency in, compliance and other capabilities, leveraging distributed cloud, things that, we refer to as IBM Cloud Satellite, to deliver a catalog of capabilities that is the same across different environments, and then have the same observability and visibility to what's going on across those environments. This is really the common theme now, because it's not just about, which cloud are we using. It is the reality that we're using multiple environments, and then tackling getting visibility and control, and also consistency for developers to be able to do similar things across different environments, is, I think, this next wave of conversation that's happening in cloud adoption.
It seems on those challenges, it seems like since multi-cloud is still a fairly new technology, it's necessarily going to be difficult for companies. I think if companies say, "Hey, we're struggling with this," I'm going to guess they're not going to be alone with that, because I mean, there's the security thing you mentioned. There's the factor of observability. I mean, do you think it's pretty common that companies are having some challenges with this?
Yeah, I think it's pretty common. I think also all companies are facing the same sort of security concerns, right? So at the same time, in the last 2 years, that we've gone from 29% monocloud to only 3%, meaning everyone is now multi-cloud pretty much. Everyone is also increasingly concerned about things like, cybersecurity and the cost of data breaches. Studies show that is ramping, and remediation times take a long time. And so I think there are a few other common threads as everyone is looking at the multi-cloud landscape. And preventing breaches, which means, again, being able to have consistency in how things are configured, picking cloud environments which are contextualized to data protection and data privacy and industry specific concerns is another major trend that we're seeing in order to address that, right? So when you have this common concern around cybersecurity, when you have a rising number of breaches, when you have a lot of regulatory requirements coming at you, you want to partner with a cloud provider that has programs that contextualize cloud usage for your industry and enable you to more safely deploy your data into those environments and know how it's going to be protected, et cetera.
Interesting. So I'd love to get your sense of the future of multi-cloud. I mean, obviously you're very close to the sector, and I think multi-cloud is going to change dramatically in the next several years. How can companies get ready for that now?
Yeah, I think that this platform conversation that I mentioned is really one of the absolutely key conversations. Deciding that you are going to, I guess I would say, architect your transition to multi-cloud rather than having it just happen and ending up with what I've heard term a Franken-cloud kind of environment. Right. But really taking a step back and saying, okay, let's actually architect this. Let's have an intentional strategy around why we even are using multi-cloud and using multiple environments. And then let's have an intentional strategy about how we get to, consistent environments. I think it is important also for companies to look at the opportunity that the new trend in industry clouds has provided. We've been doing a lot of work in the industry around cloud for financial services to kind of contextualize and deal with these issues and problems for the industry in a consistent way across the industry. And those conversations are also, hybrid multi-cloud conversations because of distributed cloud technology. And so a platform decision, a concerted decision around the security and data protection posture that you're intending to create and maintain across multi-cloud. And I think then lastly, I would say, from a skills perspective, again, the reason a lot of folks are coming back to a platform conversation is so as to have some consistency in their skills base across everything that they're trying to manage in their cloud estate. Being able to level the playing field through a common container platform, common services, common catalog of capabilities across environments means also your technical population is aimed at a common set of tooling and common, DevSecOps process and things like that. All of those lower risk, right? So the conversation ultimately is about, having a structured model for multi-cloud that's intentional, that enables you to have a better understanding of TCO and what your cost and other things are going to be. And then you really want to work to lower your risk through that security and data protection planning, and then the skill set that you have in order to manage the overall multi-cloud environment.
It is going to be a lot to keep up with, to be sure. Hillary, I think you said it. I very much appreciate you sharing your expertise today. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Great to be here. Thank you.